Okay, guys, we're doing a sound check right now. New feed, sound check on new feed.
Can you guys hear us okay? I hope you guys can hear my squeaky voice okay. Hear?
Yeah. Okay, sound is back. We're going to share this with the other. That has pretty good sound. I don't know why it wasn't working the other day. It just picks up everything. All right, new feed, new sound. Let's do this. Let me get it shared back over to the fan group here real quick, everybody. That is the problem. With having the battery power stuff. But we'll make do. Here we go. All right, let's get back to work here. That's been sitting in there marinating. All right, sorry about that, everybody. She is well heated now. Holy crime and Italy. We're going to go over to the press. We're going to stay at the press here real quick. No, we won't. We'll come back over here. That way Sarah can get her shots she needs to get. I'm going to have to switch to another different pair of tongs, I think. This part. Okay. Nice, light, even hits. Go back in the fire. How's that sound now? How many we have watching? So we've almost took this down in half. As far as I can see, everything is holding together good. We're not overusing it, which is great. I mean, maybe one or two hits, but I'm not really hitting it super hard either. Now remember, we are going to have some drop here. We're going to grind all that weld off. And we've welded it on the seam sides, all the way around it. Now I did cut one of them off, and which is cool because one of them I cut the weld off that had the stick on the end. And my welds are staying together. So on that one of the sides, there's nothing coming apart. And I've been hammering on those sides, those ends. One of those ends has no weld on it anymore. We're looking pretty good, pretty solid. I really like how 100% this type of billet building is, where you weld all the seams for a non-atmospheric, no flux, no mess. You know, grind off your welds and 100% weld it all the way through, zero inclusion. Okay, so we're going to be using two different sets of tongs here. We'll use the alligator tongs or the hammer tongs for when this thing gets fans, and we'll use these wolf jaws for when we need to straighten it out or compress it. So tomorrow I'm finishing up the spatula, and we're going to go over to Justin's tomorrow night at 7 and do this Andy Boyd's forge. We're going to cut the old flares out, weld some sleeves onto it, drill and tap those sleeves, slide in new flares that are screwed to the end of the uprights. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, done. A little more to that. We got to cut the hole a little bit bigger, and hopefully we're going to try and do it without having to take all the K-wool out of it. Because the wool in this thing is still good. So we're right about a little over 5/8 square right now. That's overall. About 2 3/4 inches long. Okay, here we go. We're gonna stay at the anvil. I'm gonna dress these faces a little bit. Not gonna come down super hard this heat. I'm just gonna really kind of dress up the faces, get them nice and flat. Not really compressed on that. Okay, we're gonna go to the press this next heat. Still one watching. Like I said, this could still be an utter disaster, a complete mess. But you really don't know until you try. I think I need to get one of those, microphones that I clip something onto here. And it's just a microphone that clips right here to the.
Yeah, we need to find out how much those cost. I think the kids need to get me that.
What's that?
The best mom ever.
Why would we get you that?
Fried chicken.
Is there something coming up? That,
Yeah, Mother's Day.
I thought the world got rid of that day. Okay. We're gonna compress this a little bit. Go ahead and move the camera, honey. There's a good compression. Yeah. Look at that fat boy. That's a fatty. We're gonna do this next heat at the anvil, just to dress the faces. This is also a really good practice in upsetting. I mean, we took something that was 6 inches long, half an inch square, and we've now upset it to the original, almost the original width and height that the original billet was. After drawing it, flattening it down, drawing it out, squishing it down to a square, putting a twist in it, forging that twist out, lengthening it, we've now upset it all back into itself. It's a really good lesson in upsetting. We'll find out here after we get this thing squished down. Won't be tonight. May not even be tomorrow. Maybe sometime this weekend. I'll get back out here and we'll, dress this up, grind it down, really get it to where we want it, and then I don't really have an outline for how the pommel of the wood is going to be shaped yet, but we want it to be relatively long. This pommel piece, this pommel plate, so that I have material to work with when it comes to designing the rest of this piece. The copper pin, the copper spacer, that's easy. I mean, this would be a relatively straightforward project if I hadn't to throw in the Damascus element into it. But the guards turned out pretty good so far. We still have a ways to go on in. It could still go completely sideways on us. The good thing is that most of it's round and spherical, so that you're not going to see change in face. So it really just comes down to the nice even lines when you go to bend it, and then getting it aligned with the spine and cutting edge. Getting it centered on there. Okay, we're going to come out of here to the anvil. We're going to press these faces up before we go to the press next heat. There is quite a bit of an angle to them. It's just like when you champ for edges to bring everything back center. Next heat, we'll go into the press. We are almost inch by inch. Almost. Well, no. But that's, how much we've compressed it from, we're almost inch by inch square, but we're still about 1 3/4 inches long. When we started out with this being right around 1/2 inch square, maybe a little bit above it, 6 inches long, there's been a lot of compression and upset now. We're going to use the alligator tongs or the hammer tongs from this point forth underneath the press. If I wanted to, you could compress this to the point where, you're making a Damascus dice out of something that was, to be drawn out into like a hairpin or something. We're going to take this out a little early. Go ahead and move the camera. You put those guides on there. Go ahead and get your shot. It's fine. All right. We'll have to drop some of these stages out of the reel unless we just make it one hammer hit, pop, 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 all the way through. Yeah, I'll be able to edit it down. Remember, when you're doing something like this, by no means are you out of the woods, even at this stage right here. It can still be just a pile of shit. We're gonna get this one pretty hot. Let's go around. See how much squish. Whoa, there's a. I gotta replace that brick in there. That big old. The brick in there is caked with probably a quarter inch of flux, leftover flux, and it just decided to break loose. So we're probably gonna yard out all that and kind of rebuild Fred. I'm not going to replace the flares on him just yet. We'll yard all that, the brick out of there, put new brick in, and put some new cable alongside the brick. And because I'm not using flux anymore to do stuff, then it will be fine. I mean, realistically, I'm going to be building a blacksmith forge welding forge and just have Fred for the regular stuff. We have the vertical forge that's going to be in service here pretty soon. That will be for this Damascus stuff. It'll have sticks, maybe not this style, but stuff with sticks on it for knives and everything. But then we'll have the forge, the blacksmith forge. It'll be dealing with flux and all that nastiness. It's be a 1 burner instead of a 2 burner. Maybe I'll just leave the brick in there for right now. I mean, it's not bothering anything. Yeah, it gets stuff a little dirty, but you know, like what in the world? Okay, we're gonna really squish this guy down. This heat, he's super hot. We're almost to a cube. Okay. We're really close to just being a cube. Just kind of chamfering these corners in that are wanting to just kind of move out on me. That's pretty amazing. That's outstanding. That's pretty cool.
And tomorrow is unique day in my
What?
unique day. I'm going to show this.
Oh, there's curse words in it.
Well, I'm not going to show the description.
Just showing the real stuff. So we're going to continue squishing this, guys and gals. Get this all squished out. I'm not going to, at this point in time, I'm not going to worry about dressing up my edges, but because I'm going to start forming this thing into a cup. So I'll dress my edges on and start pushing them in towards the center instead of coming down on the top. If it wants to slide one way, bring it out on the anvil and come down on it and start working that, some of these hard corners down so it wants to spread into more of a circle. The amount of compression that I'm getting with this is just a testament to what a bigger, better tool can do for you, even if it's not even in the correct format. I mean, I still have some guide rails to put on this. I'm trying to keep it really easy on it. I really watch the head on it to make sure it's not flexing too much. You know, even I need to get the rails put on it. So we might even do that this weekend, is put the locking rails on it so it can't move like this back and forth. The head will rock a little bit of a distance that it can, but we won't be getting this anymore. Okay, we're at temperature. As I drop it on the ground, and trip over all my shit. Like that rock. I need to fix the thing so it can't do that. Taking my corners down. We're probably going to go with the hammer from this point on, so we get it to a different dimension. Trying to find out which is my whatever. Oh. That's my top. So we're going to come out on the anvil this next heat. We're going to start spreading this out. Now, I may be spreading it exactly the wrong way, but I still think it'll have a good pattern to it. I kind of lost track of what size for my pattern and what size for my ends, and then I got this short. I think I picked it up. Now it's over a 1-inch cube now. Not really a cube really anymore. We're starting to spread it out in a rectangle the other way. But we went to right about a 1-inch cube, and now we're widening it back out. We're flattening it out into a medallion. Now, if we had another person here to strike, this would be pretty close to a 1 heater. And then it's just holding on a pair of tongs, rotating it, maybe 2 sets of tongs, rotating as a guy hits it with a hammer, spreading it out. Go ahead and unplug the cord up there. No. Look on the freaking ground, Sarah. Extension cord going into the shop, unplugging. I swear. So we're gonna let this thing heat up pretty good. We may let this be the last heat for the night, depending on where we get to. We don't have too many heats after this, I know that. As I'm wasting my heat. I'm gonna do one more heat, and then I'll probably let this cool down. I'll grind off all the shit I don't want, and then go from there and continue spreading it out. But we'll do one more heat tonight. Looking pretty good. There's one little suspect area on here that I want to take a look at. I think it's weld. I don't think it's anything else. But we'll do one more heat in here, and then we'll let it cool. I'm gonna let it anneal in the forge. We need to let this thing cool down really slowly. Now, actually, what I'll probably actually do, not the forge, I'm gonna go put it in some kitty litter, bury the kitty litter over there. Not used kitty litter, it's fresh. And then we'll pull it out tomorrow or the next day. Might even do it sometime tomorrow. But like I said, tomorrow morning I'm going to get steel for the pot rack project for Mark McVeigh, Metalcraft Northwest. We're going to go down to Jensen Hardwoods, pick up $165 worth of dried processed elm to make some hand-carved bowls. Also need to finish my bowl chisels and carving knives to be able to do that demo coming up in June 5th. But I also have to get practicing with the bowls and everything. I can do it, just to be proficient, you know. And I have to get two of them done, one of them half done, and because what I'll do is I'll carve a blank to the halfway point, and then or close to the halfway point, and then go on to the next stage and be able to finish one on camera in 2 hours. Well, mom wants to just auction off the two that she's getting and get it show this during her demo, along with the 2 sets of fork, knife, and spoons that I'm going to have Andy make prior to his demo. And she wants to auction them off, but I told her I said, don't use them if you want to sell them. Nobody wants used bowls, used wooden bowls.
No, they don't.
Well, maybe some of my friends wouldn't care, but. Well, folks, that's pretty cool. You know, still unsure about whether it's even going to look good or not. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, it's a good, either way, it was a really good practice in upsetting. And not only upsetting steel, but upsetting Damascus steel. Now, remember this thing was over 6 inches long, and now it's about 1.5 inches, maybe 1.75 inches square by about 1/2 inch thick. So we're going to put this back in the forge. We're going to put it in the back, shut it off, and let it cool down. I was going to stick it in the pig later, but we'll just let it cool down in there. Okay, everybody, let me get the camera and everything turned back around here. We'll sign off for the night. Woo! Okay, that was fun. Now, not near as tiring as doing it all by hand. Let me tell you what. Having that press saves a lot of time, saves a lot of shoulder, saves a lot of arm in general. Just really helps your body to not break down as fast. Still a lot of work involved, but not near as much as what would have been. And you're putting less stress within your piece by, you know, not hammering it all the time and just pressing it, because it's only going to go so far, you know, before it bends over, and then you got to straighten it back out. And as long as you're not overworking your steel, just as always not overworking your steel, you will have a better chance, being that this is Damascus, to have something turn out. So hopefully everybody enjoyed it. We'll have the reel up on Instagram here shortly. I'll share it to the fan group and the Blue Mountain Blacksmith group, and then we'll get it up on Instagram, and so you guys can see the different progressions that we went through, the starting point, and then what we ended up with tonight. We're really close. It's like a 1/2 inch thick. We want it to be right around 3/16. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread that. I'm going to force that down to right about 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8, right? And then what I'll do is I'll grind the rest of it off. I'll grind it all away, and we're going to be left with either it's Damascus no matter what, but depending on how the grind looks, we may only get a fringe of that twist, right around the edges, which will still look cool because you'll still have you'll still be able to see the different layers of the Damascus. But I was hoping for something that had more spiral, and I don't think we really achieved that. But who knows? I mean, we may have totally got it completely backwards when I went to go hammer it flat too, and we're going to have really nice undulation, but not exactly what we were looking for. So either way, if it all stays together, it's a win. I mean, realistically, if it's staying together, once we get all the bullshit ground off, then it gets counted as a win, no matter what. Because only other smiths can truly understand just how much pressure that was put under, those welds were put under throughout that entire process. And only smiths that really have made Damascus and have made Damascus for a while and have lots of failures, knowing what welds do underneath pressure. Even a blacksmith that doesn't necessarily do a lot of Damascus, but maybe they do a lot of forge welding, would understand the pressures that those welds are under. And it means that if it stays together, it's really not a reflection on me as a smith. It's the process that I went through to begin with. I didn't develop the process. It's not my idea. I just welded all the seams, and that allows to have a no atmosphere environment within in between each one of those plates there is in this billet, which allows for a super clean weld. All the other times I've done this type of weld, this billet welding, absolutely no inclusions, none. You take the weld off, and it is 100% usable all the way to the edge, which is what everybody wants. But with a atmospheric weld, wet weld, flux weld, whatever you want to call it, there's a certain amount of drop around the edges that just doesn't get welded. You're going to have inclusions right out there, and so you're going to have to cut that stuff off. With this type of weld, all you're cutting off is the weld, and all you're taking away is the weld. The rest of it is 100% usable Damascus. So, hopefully it proves me wrong. Maybe I would, if it's going to fail, it's going to fail in this part of the project right here because of the pressure that those welds are under. If it's going to fail, if there's going to be any problem with it, I only see a little bit on the ends where the upset was happening right at the seams where not a lot was holding it together. Right at the very ends those ends that we upset it back into itself. That's really the only suspect area on it that I've seen, and that's only on the side that was cut. The flux from the flux core got in between there as it welded, and that's to be had. I mean, I only cut off just a sliver off the end to get that stick off. So there was probably still some messiness on there, and I probably should have cut more of it off, but I didn't. But that's why I stopped where we stopped, so I have more than enough to work with once I got it all ground back and down. And we'll probably do that tomorrow. Get it ground. I'll put some pictures out, and we'll drive on from here. So the next process we're doing on this Bowie is it's not heat treated yet, and I don't want to heat treat it quite yet. What I want to do is I want to get the guard slotted and fitted, and that'll be a hot fit in here. So we'll heat that guard back up again, and we'll drive that down onto the shoulders here to create an impression there so it fits nice and tight on this piece. And then we'll clean up that slot one more time. Not a heavy clean, just kind of dress it up, make it look nice and flush on this front side that everybody's going to see, because that back side is going to be covered. So if it's a mess on that side, doesn't really matter as long as everything fits up well. Then we got to get our copper slotted pin out of the same piece that we're going to be doing our copper, if I can find it. If I can't find it, we'll switch gears one more time, and we'll try try a different material in there as the spacer and pin. I'd like to use copper, but I have a lot of brass, and I know exactly where that is. So we may end up using brass, and brass would look really good too. I just like the copper and the walnut mixed with the Damascus. It has a really nice meat. They're really nice. They pair well together. Nice medium on the back end. But so guard, slot the guard, fit it, get it bent. You know, leaving enough room. Get the handle. Make sure we have the handle also done so it slides on, and rough ground down to where it's almost the size we're going to need it. It's just going to take some hand sanding at that point, and then get our guard bent the way we need it and do any tweaks that way. That way, when everything is finished prior to epoxy and hammering this pin over to lock it all into place, it's done. Once it's just maybe a little cleanup where the epoxy squirted out, but we shouldn't even have that because I'll be clean. I'm only going to put enough epoxy in it to kind of adhere it to this blade because it's going to have a triple connection: epoxy on the tang, a pin in the tang, and a hammered butt plate. We're going to tighten that butt plate down on and push everything towards that guard by hammering and rivet heading the end of our tang over through a hole in the back of the pommel plate. So it's going to have three good connection points. Normally, on a through tang, you may only have two. You may put a little epoxy in here and then hammer that over, or not at all. I would not suggest doing not at all unless you have a super, super tight slot along your tang within that handle material. If there's any kind of play in that slot at all, if it doesn't fit tight on there, you better put epoxy in it because it's going to rattle loose. That right there is a good connection from coming off this way, but not much of a good connection from getting a little bit of a rattle back and forth. So the three connecting points here, the epoxy, the pin, and the hammered rivet head on the backside on the pommel of this knife is really going to make it a super, super strong connection. And then, you know, before that all gets done, we'll heat treat this, get it all ready to go, make sure the warps come out, buff the whole thing, and put an edge on it, make some pants for it, and get it up on the site to sell. This will sell for right around $800. That's shipped. So within the United States, it's free shipping for anything over, I think, $150. And outside the United States, international shipping, you will pay for it. No free international shipping. I mean, if I have to ship this to Australia, it's going to run probably $100+, you know, to ship. So, but yeah, we're not almost there. We're about halfway, right? We still got a long ways to go, and we're going to make sure we just take our time with this. We're not going to be doing much of any of this next week because we got the pot rack for a client commission order that is going to be coming up. There's not a lot of smithing involved. There's some bending and some shaping with a hammer, but it's basically a metal fab job with some antiquing and texturing on there to make it look old. So not really my forte, but I'm sure I wasn't the only guy the guy called, so I just took it on. From now on, I will most likely, if it's looking to be less of a blacksmith job and more welding involved than hammering and slotted joints and compression wedges and stuff like that hold together, you guys can Google all that I just said, and you'll understand. If you don't understand what I just said, you guys can Google it. And I'm probably going to push it off to some of my other guys that I know. Justin Riley does metal fab stuff, enjoys it, prefers blacksmithing, but he does enjoy metal fab. Mark McVeigh, that's what he does for a living. He's a metal fab guy, and he's not afraid to take on these small projects either. Definitely probably cheaper when I do it than if he does it, but I mean, he could have this done in a couple hours, you know. And I'm going to be taking probably at least 12 hours to do it, just to make sure it gets done right. But we'll talk more about that next week. Next week will be on the pot rack. I'll be working on it to get everything ready to go Monday and Tuesday, so that Wednesday we'll have it back from Mark, and it's just from that point on making sure everything fits, heating up in the forge, bending everything to where it needs to be, doing some texturing at that point, but a majority of it's going to be done probably Tuesday. I don't want to be doing too much texturing Wednesday and Thursday, but that's the plan, and everybody knows plan A, throw it out the freaking window as soon as you get to it. Go to plan Z. That's basically how it's going to work. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to go inside. We'll get that reel up on Instagram of what we just did tonight, the 3-second shots that my wife was doing, and we'll get back out here tomorrow if we can, if we have time, after picking up all that stuff. I don't think I'm going to have time to get out here, so if I don't see you, till next week, stay safe, be well, and forge on.